It's Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie K.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie K. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. I have a special guest on, Dr. Harmon, Dr. John Harmon. I've had him on before on Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show. He's committed his career to enhancing patient health and well-being. As the founder of Clear Mind Idaho, he has honored his skills in achieving the board certification. He has integrated laser therapies, function neurology into holistic treatment regimen focused on improving brain function and the balance of autonomic nervous system. Dr. Harmon's interest is longevity and peptides in this book that we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Harmon.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to share this information with your audience.
Yay! So how and when did you find out about this technology? I call it the power of the patch. We do want to say before you answer any questions, we don't cure, heal, or treat anything. The body just heals itself. So Dr. Harmon is going to talk about things today that will help the body. But like I said, we don't heal or claim or treat to cure anything. So go ahead, Dr. Harmon.
Well, I just wanted to do a little correction there on Clear Mind Idaho. We do microcurrent neurofeedback, and we do the functional neurology and balancing out the autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
That's the balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And we do laser therapies. We target that balance in that autonomic nervous system. So anyway, you had said atomic, and I just wanted to. So yeah, I found out about this technology a little over 4.5 years ago, right in April of 2020, where the whole quarantine COVID thing started, and we were shamed into closing as well. And a friend of mine called me right in the midst of that, and he said, "What do you know about stem cells?" And I said, "Well, I've had stem cell injections in both of my knees. It helped get me out of a brace that I was wearing on my knee because it hurt so bad. But um, it didn't do a lot. And I found out later why sometimes stem cell injections don't work, that maybe we can talk about at some point. It has to do with the amount of inflammation someone has." And he said, "What if you could elevate your own stem cells by wearing a little phototherapy patch?" And having not heard of that before, my brain went into a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Like, no, those are injections. We make our own, but we get them from somebody else. And so that's when it started in April of 2020. And that's when I started using it on a daily basis. Didn't really notice a lot at first. I should say didn't notice much at first. I noticed a little bit increase in energy. My wife said my happiness factor went up, things like that. I wasn't one of the ones who felt something right away, whereas I've met a lot of people who do. Everybody's different. And my journey over the next 2 years is where I received the most benefit that was documented on 2 stress echocardiograms.
Wow. Yeah, that your story has been so inspiring in the books that you've written. You actually helped our company. You helped save everything from writing this book because you're sharing with people what really is going on in the body. And I love that.
Yes, because of what happened with my heart health now, like Carrie K said, I'm not your doctor. I am a doctor, but I'm not your doctor, and your results may be different. I'm just going to share my results right now. I had knee replacement surgery scheduled for about 8 months because it was so bad. I had a bad ski accident back in 1973. It was the year I graduated from high school, and it, in fact, after the surgery, the surgeon said, "I've never seen anything like your knee. It was like a polished knob. You had no cartilage on it at all. How were you walking?" And I used to do prolozone injections in my office. That's ozone, B vitamins, and procaine, and it helped get me out of pain. But it was still pretty bad. So I had this knee replacement surgery coming up. I'd been using the patch for about 4.5 months, and the PVCs, or preventricular contractions, those are where your heart kind of skips a beat. Basically, skips a beat. It stops for about a second and then goes into a normal rhythm, and then bop up, boom, 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 boom. And that was just random. And I noticed them when I was in high school. I didn't know what it was. It just felt funny. So these PVCs that were totally random for, I don't know, 40 years plus, all of a sudden, after using the patch for 4.5 months, got really rhythmic, and it was every fifth beat. It was really strange and kind of troublesome because I had a knee replacement surgery coming up, and I was getting concerned that something bad was going on with my heart. It was. I would wake up in the night if you miss a beat, if your heart stops for about a second, every fifth beat, that's quite a bit. And so I would wake up in the night gasping for air. And so I said, man, I got to get an appointment with the cardiologist. I went in, he did the first of two stress echocardiograms. And after the test, he came in, he said, your heart, functioned pretty well under exercise. You just have these PVCs in a right bundle branch block. And that's when I first found out that I had a right bundle branch block. So what is that? That has to do with the conductivity to the right ventricle. And just a short course in anatomy, the blood comes back to the heart, goes into the right atrium, that's the chamber above, and then it goes down into the right ventricle, out to the lungs to get oxygen, back to the heart in the left ventricle, left atrium, down into the left ventricle, and then out to the heart. So the blood was coming back to my heart, but the right ventricle wasn't getting everything out to the lungs very well. If you look that up on PubMed, all-cause mortality goes up. So I said, well, what causes that? And he said, well, in all parts of our body, there are cells that get old and your body eliminates them. It's called apoptosis, programmed cellular death. You just can't replace them fast enough in the heart because the heart's constantly beating. And I went, I know what's happening. This is total, I have no evidence of this. It's just what I thought. I had been elevating my stem cells for 4.5 months. And so they were in ample supply, and stem cells can be heart cells. They can be liver cells. They can become whatever cell, skin cell. My thought was, I have all these new cells and they don't know how to do it. And they're all misfiring at the same time. This was my thought. 2 weeks later, the PVCs were gone. A year and a half later, I had another stress echocardiogram done, and the report came back, right bundle branch block no longer present. And two different doctors have told me they've never seen one of those go away. And this is what motivated me to dig into the research and find out what the heck happened. How in the heck did this happen? Which led to writing that first book, which is How to Reverse Aging, the Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides. And then a year later, so that was published a year ago, August. And then in August of this last year, I published the second one called The Reverse Aging Power of Epitalin, which is known as the Fountain of Youth peptide. So yes, the connection with LifeWave is that what I did in the books is I documented all of the research regarding the peptides. Not that there isn't a direct connection to the patch until you look into the study that was done using the patch, and it was measuring blood samples and to determine if wearing the X39 patch elevates GHK copper peptide in the blood. So that double-blind randomized placebo-controlled study was done, and it showed that indeed wearing that patch elevates your GHK copper peptide. So in order to determine any potential benefit of wearing that patch, you simply just turn to the literature, because there have been studies about the GHK copper peptide since 1977. And the book has 91 references to that research in the book. The Epitalin book has 96 references to the research about that one, about that peptide. So that's the connection. There's no direct connection. I list in the book, in the How to Reverse Aging, different ways one can get the GHK copper peptide. One is through infusions, one is through injections, one is through a cream or a lotion from a dermatologist, or now LifeWave. We have an eye cream with that in it. Or you can wear the innovative phototherapy patch that signals your body to make your own.
That is so amazing and so exciting. What is the name of your practice, Dr. Harmon?
It's called Clear Mind Idaho. We help people with brain dysfunction. The brain runs on electricity. Where there's too much electricity or not enough electrical activity, you get either more of something or less of something, because it has to have the right amount of electrical activity. And that's where symptoms start to happen, when we get outside, too far outside of the normal range of electrical activity. So we have systems in place that once again bring balance to the brain, and then symptoms don't live there when the brain is working normally. So that's our focus. When somebody comes in, I'll test their autonomic nervous system. If these brain issues always start out as anxiety, because the fight or flight gets activated and then doesn't come back down to normal. Now people have a busy mind, they can't turn it off, they can't sleep, they don't digest food very well, they feel like something's going to happen, they're anticipating. Avoidance behavior leads to depression and other things. But the main thing is, it's not just those things that happen when we're stuck in fight or flight. It's that your brain neurotransmitters are stuck in emergency mode. Like there's something going to happen. And I'm stuck in this mode, and it's not conducive to the rest of life. Like healing, digesting food, sleeping, joy. So we focus on balancing that system out, and then the networks and hubs in the brain can start to reconnect and be, fire under normal situations rather than stuck in emergency mode.
Wow. So you integrated the power of the patch into your practice. So
Yeah, because there was a study done about using the patch, and they used quantitative EEG. That's my certification, board certification in QEEG, which is a map of the electrical activity of the brain. And one of the measurements that we look at in those QEEGs is called coherence. And that's how much crosstalk is there between lobes, side to side, front to back. There's supposed to be a normal amount of traffic, because everything we do is processed by the entire brain, but every single thing we do is processed predominantly 80% on one side and 20 on the other. And that gives us essentially kind of two different brains, because it allows us to process more things.
wow.
So there has to be coordination and correlation between, for example, I look at a person, part of my brain interprets colors, part of it interprets straight line stuff and odor. If we were close enough, I could smell your perfume or whatever it is. But the brain has to crosstalk and communicate side to side, front to back. That's normal coherence. Where there's too much going back and forth, that's a traffic jam. And things slow down. The processing slows down. What happens is one side of the brain says to the other, hey, I'm not working very well. Could you help me out? Can you process this information with me? Well, now that side can't do what it's supposed to do because it's helping the other side. Now you got everything's all jammed up. The more places you have in your brain that are stuck in hypercoherence, the more autistic we are.
Oh my goodness.
Conversely, if you have less crosstalk, that's hypocoherence, that's cognitive decline. Every participant in the study wearing the X39 for 6 weeks in 3 different brain maps, everyone's hypercoherence came down, everyone's hypocoherence came down. So they both went closer to normal. It was only a 6-week study, but huge changes over that 6 weeks in brain. So yes, we use those in our brain protocols because it also helps normalize the brain in that measurement of coherence, helps normalize the amount of electrical activity going back and forth, side to side, front to back.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you about frequencies because you are a specialist in all these frequencies. And I know that you showed a film a while ago, and I have a client who has some mold issues right now, and she's gotten rid of a lot of it. But tell us a little bit about the frequencies that you would work with her for the mold issue.
Well, the mold is a complicating factor. Here's an example. We're treating a little boy right now. Um, the mom didn't know that they had mold in the house, and they finally found out. And he has these he has OCD, he has poor impulse control. Um, Mold can cause anger problems and a lot of other things. There are 3 things that cause our brains to shift: physical trauma, concussion, um, like a concussion, chemical exposure, like mold, like Lyme, like Epstein-Barr, like those things cause shifts in the neurons in our brain, and emotional trauma. That's what happened to my family that motivated me to go try to find things to fix brains. In a little over a 2.5 year period, we had a suicide of my 18-year-old niece, the murder of my daughter's husband, and then the next year my sister died. And so my grandkids and kids had anxiety, depression, insomnia. 4 years of counseling and prescription drugs weren't working. So I went on a journey to try to find things to fix brains, which led me on this path. And, passion without knowledge can sometimes be dangerous. So I, I was really passionate about driving when I was 13. I just didn't know how yet. And so that's why I went and got board certified in brain and took functional neurology courses and laser courses. And then I cherry picked the things out of that target the balance in that autonomic nervous system. And that's what our focus is. If I know someone's stuck in fight or flight, and if I know that the system is called reciprocal inhibition. If the fight or flight goes up, the parasympathetic goes down, the other side of the system. So I know if I can elevate this one gets inhibited down. So that's what I focus on, elevating or activating the parasympathetic nervous system through microcurrent neurofeedback, which is 3 trillionths of a watt of delta waves. Untrained brain stem from the faulty pattern that it's stuck in. Specific frequencies and wavelengths of laser will activate ATP production in the brain stem cells. So we do that, and then looking at the functional neurology, all parts of the body get input from both systems for the most part, except 14 functions. They only get input from the parasympathetic. So we test those as an assessment to see how they're doing. 100% of the people who come into my office have at least half of those functions that are not working. And they could do with they could one of them is swallowing.
Hmm.
People will come in, yeah, I feels like I just can't swallow a pill anymore. My swallowing mechanism doesn't work very well, or lights are really bright. Oh man, I can't do. Well, when we get startled or when we're scared, when we go into fight or flight, our pupils dilate. People will
Mm.
come in and their pupils are dilated and they're not doing drugs. That's an overactive sympathetic nervous system, and it leads to adrenal fatigue. And that's why doctors will look at their eyes and say, well, you have adrenal fatigue. Yes, because I'm stuck as if there's something going to happen all the time. So my adrenal glands are all overactive and then they get exhausted, but I still
Yeah.
can't constrict my pupils. So anyway, we look at things like that and then activate those pathways and then they come back on. And not so
So
coincidentally, people's
you had
symptoms go
someone
away.
that did have mold that you were working with. What of the patches would you recommend?
Oh, for brain?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, the X39, it's known to help with neuroregeneration. It's known to help decrease anxiety. And then the Aeon patch activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is for resting, digesting, healing, sleep. So it activates that. And the reason it helps so much with inflammation is because the parasympathetic nervous system, excuse me, is responsible for shutting off inflammation on a systemic level. So that by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, you will decrease inflammation.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And then you look at epithalamin, that gets elevated when you wear the Alavita patch. That helps people get restorative sleep again
Hmm.
because the increase in melatonin, when you go into normal sleep patterns, your circadian rhythm gets restored. And that's I eat when I'm awake and I sleep at night. It is during normal circadian rhythm where hormonal balancing occurs. When they get out of that, our hormones get off, and you might have an imbalance between ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin makes us have the feeling of hunger. Leptin gives us the feeling of being satisfied. So we eat when we're not hungry or
Ooh.
don't even need to eat, and then people start gaining weight, and it was because of a sleep disorder that
Oh.
led to a metabolic issue, hormonal imbalance, and now they have this weight that they can't lose. I only eat, 1,000 calories a day. How could I be gaining weight? Well, hormone imbalance. So uh, the Alavita patch, because it helps with melatonin, can help indirectly with hormone balancing.
Yeah. I just ordered some Alavita, so I'm really excited to get those.
It'll be your first time.
In a little while, I get as many as I can, but
People always ask me, which ones do you use? And I say, all of them.
I do. I use all of them all the time, but I unfortunately was a hurricane victim the last couple of months, so
Uh,
I had to get stocked up on them again.
that
So
makes sense.
yeah. So wow, Dr. Harmon, I have learned a whole lot from you today. And in just a few minutes that we have left, what else did you want to cover? I know that I'm interested in the new book that you have just put out about our telomeres. Some people don't even know what telomeres are. Can you just give us a little brief explanation on
Yeah,
that?
telomeres look, if you look at your shoelaces, you see the little plastic cap on the end holding all the threads together for
Right?
the shoelaces that are made of some kind of fiber. Our genes have to be held together at the end of them. And then when we need to make a new cell, they have to divide, replicate, and then come back together. Each time that happens, if we didn't have the telomeres, we would be losing the length of our genes. So there's this kind of a throwaway part where just a little bit of it shortens, but it doesn't affect the actually genetic material. And so our lifespan is determined by the length of our telomeres. You can go to a lab and have some blood drawn, and they can measure your telomeres, and they can tell you about how much longer you have to live because it's kind of baked into the cake. You know, the length of the telomeres will determine the length of your life. If you could repair those when you lose a little length, in other words, replace the length, then it's reasonable to state that you're going to live longer because your cells aren't dying so fast. So there's a substance called telomerase, and what it does, its job is to repair the ending of the genes, the telomeres. It puts another segment back on, puts another segment back on, puts another segment back on. Telomerase is something that our body makes, but we start to lose that ability to make that as we age, and then we get more rapid aging. The peptide called epithalamin that our pineal gland makes signals our body to make more telomerase. Wearing the Olivita patch signals our body to release more epithalamin. Then we make more telomerase, and the pineal gland also releases more melatonin. So we don't have to take melatonin. Our body makes melatonin. We don't have to take telomerase. Our body makes telomerase. And what happens, the limit, the number of times a cell can divide is called the Hayflick limit. When it reaches its limit, and that cell either does one of two things. It will either die or it will become a zombie cell. It's really a term, zombie cell. And what it is, the cell doesn't die. It just demands to be fed every day.
Wow.
Not doing its job. If I'm a kidney cell, I'm not going to do any kidney filtration, but feed me. So that's a zombie cell. So each cell can divide up to 30% more times if you can replace and repair those telomeres. That's why it's called the fountain of youth peptide, because the fountain of youth, you live longer,
So
you look healthier.
in the next 7 minutes that we have left, we have covered a whole lot of things. So the telomeres are sounding to me like the power of the patch and the way that it works in our body to build the GHK copper peptide levels. This is actually lengthening the telomeres too, correct?
Right,
Wearing this technology.
correct.
All right.
And that also, the epithalamin activates a hormone, excuse me. I wanted to say peptide. We're talking about peptide, called somatotropin, or HGH, human growth hormone, which is extremely beneficial for collagen repair. And this is why it's so good for the face. It helps decrease wrinkle depth and helps smooth skin, can help with even acne scars. I mean, this is known in the literature. The GHK copper peptide is known to help repair scarring, even scarring from acne, because it has the ability to either build collagen or destroy collagen. And the destruction of collagen would be where there's too much in a haphazard way, and that's scar tissue. So it helps normalize the appearance of scars.
I know that's true because when I was 3 years old, I swallowed a Christmas tree hook that was wrapped in bling. That's why they call me the bling girl. And
Whoa.
yeah, and my father had to do, he had to get that emergency surgery. And so it used to go from here all the way down here and across. And like, I was looking at for pictures. I was like, wow, because I've been on the patches for 5 years. And so if somebody really was interested, we have about 5 more minutes left in the show. If someone was really interested in knowing more about the power of the patch and they were on the fence and they weren't sure about trying it, what would you say to them?
Well, get back to the person who invited you to watch this. Um, they can get a hold of you. If they're interested in my book, would I could I share a
I'd
little?
love for you to share where your books are at. Yes, we're very
Yeah,
happy.
if they want to get a signed copy, if you give me sharing privileges, I could make me co-host.
Um, well, let me see if I can do that.
Go to participants
Host tools.
and then click on the three dots by my name to the right of mute,
Oh, okay, I got you.
and then
To the
make co-host.
make host. There we go. All right, go for it, Dr. Harmon.
Okay. All right. So here is where a person could go to get a signed copy. It's on Amazon, but it won't be signed if you get it from Amazon. If you want one signed, you can just hover over this QR code and it will take you to a little web page where you can get more information, but also request a copy. And this is the reverse aging power of epitalon. And that's the QR code for that one. So if they just hover their camera over it, go to the website, there's a form submission there, and they can actually purchase a book there. That information goes to my office, and then you receive a signed book that
Well,
way.
thank you so much, Dr. Harmon. We have about two
Yeah,
minutes left in the show. So I just want to thank you so much for all your information. Education is the key to what we are doing. And like I said, the body's just healing itself, and these stories that we have about how the power of the patch has worked for us. And thank you for sharing with us today, Dr. Harmon. We appreciate you so much.
thank you so much. It was hopefully very beneficial to your listeners, and that they can help their bodies be the best they can be, instead of going into the decline, into frailty and disability that a lot of people go through when they get a little bit older. So hopefully we prevented a little bit of that.
And we have choices. We have the choice. I chose to do holistic. You chose to go the holistic route. And look how many people are being helped from it. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, thank you so much for being on the
You're
show, Doc.
welcome.
And God bless. And we'll see you next time on
Have
Living
a
a Healthy
great
Lifestyle Show.
have a great weekend.